Welcome back to the Coaching Lab podcast. My name is Leigh Baker, your host for today's episode, where I get to sit down with Sabryna Liddle, a fellow coach and powerhouse in the coaching industry, and explore how coaches can support clients when the future feels unstable or uncertain. And if you want to continue the conversation with us this fall, both Sabryna and I will be at the 8th Annual Rocky Mountain Coaching Retreat and Symposium in Estes Park, Colorado, which is a weekend designed specifically for health coaches who want deeper connection, meaningful growth, and rejuvenation and time to focus on their own well-being. So we'd love to have you join us. And you can always learn more about the retreat at catalystcoachinginstitute.com/retreat. And for today's episode, whether you're an individual looking for better understanding what it looks like to work alongside a health and wellness coach, or you are a coach looking to broaden your toolkit of ways to support your clients, we're glad you're here. So let's get to it. Sabryna, I'm so excited for today's episode. And I think it comes at a timely time with uncertain times and different things going on in our world and within our industry. But before we fully dive in, I know that you and I have known each other for a while, but people tuning in may or may not know the wonderful things about you and what you've done. So I'd love for people to get to know you a little bit more.
Ooh, yay. Well, I have been coaching for Catalyst Coaching 360 since, dare I say,
2007, baby.
Thanks, Brad.
Drum roll, please.
In case I forgot. And that is just amazing to think that I've been able to coach people for, oh my gosh, almost 19 years. It's changed my life because, getting to partner with people and just help them be their best self is just a gift. So I thank Brad and Susanna for giving me this opportunity to be able to do it for so long. And I also get to teach people how to be coaches because I have a mission, and it is to connect as many people as possible in the world with coaches. So I get to do that through Catalyst.
Sabryna is a catalyst.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's enough about me for now.
I think at some point in the conversation today, so these two roomed together at the retreat last year, and I heard so many hilarious stories. So I'm hoping some of that will bleed into here, because those of you who know either Leigh or Sabryna, you know they are powerhouses of energy and ideas. And when you put them together, you talk about a spark. It's like this wildfire in the midst of everything. So you're going to hear some of that today, but note this conversation is essentially a spinoff of what they were doing at 2 a.m. on Friday night at the retreat last year. So there you have it.
Yes, we talked about all things coaching, case studies, and we may or may not dive into a little bit of that. And I would say that, yes, I think that, Sabryna, I don't want to speak for you, but when I'm in the room with you and able to just like brainstorm and talk about challenges and frustrations that are coming up in the coaching industry, especially around this idea of uncertain times or challenging things that come up, it is nice to have a like-minded individual alongside you that also has a different perspective sometimes. So I'm hoping we're able to kind of drive back and forth with that today, because there's so much we can talk about with this topic.
Yeah, this is a fun topic. And it's really, we've had partners, our partners come to us and, say, oh my gosh, our employees, they want to talk with coaches because of them feeling so uncertain about so many things happening. So I hope that this conversation is going to maybe help just people that are out there listening, but also help coaches, because I think this is one of the hot topics.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. When you hear coaching in uncertain times, what comes up for you? I know it can be a can of worms because uncertain times feels like a lot of different things, but what comes up for you?
Well, it was so funny because, back at 2020, that was like, oh my gosh, the pandemic. That was like the first, I don't know. That's what I thought of uncertain times. And we've seen lately a lot of topics kind of falling under the bucket of uncertain times. I think I've seen as social media has evolved since I've been coaching, it has affected people's views and really polarized people. And so I think a lot of times people feel uncertain because of politics and government if they view themselves at odds with current policy. So that's been a topic of uncertainty. We're seeing a lot of people talking about uncertainty because of AI. I mean, AI is like growing by leaps and bounds. And, people are like, what's going to happen to my job? A lot of uncertainty around their jobs and how AI might affect that. So that's been another topic. Climate change is still a thing too for people, right? Like, oh my gosh. And is the world going to be okay? Coaching young adults as they go from their known life of school and college into the real world. And then a health diagnosis. So I'm like, when we talk about coaching around uncertainty, I feel like it's pretty common.
Well, in phase of life stuff, we've talked about the transitions that people are facing. This is the first generation. If you look at the group that's getting ready to retire or pondering that kind of your 55 plus age group, it is the first generation in the history of the country that did not have a draft, so there was no interruption early on in their careers, and B, if they're healthy at 60, they have a coin flip chance of getting into their 90s. That's never happened before. So you have a different beginning to life. You have an extension. Again, there are some caveats there, healthy at 60, et cetera. But that's different. When you're going to live 30 more years, it's a different conversation with a coach than if you think, well, I'm in the last 5 to 7 years.
What I hear with that is everything feels to a certain extent uncertain,
totally.
Which creates like overwhelm and like sometimes loss of sense of self. Like when it comes to coaching space, like when they don't feel even footed. And everything feels like they can't predict what's next, which we can't predict what's next. But when nothing feels stable and everything feels uncertain, then you have stress and overwhelm and lack of sense of purpose or like, what is next for me? Because they feel like they don't have as much control. So it is
the connection piece overall, church involvement has gone from 60-some% to 27 or something. I haven't looked at the latest data, but it's a lot lower. And that was community for a lot of people, regardless of your spiritual beliefs. That was community. And now that is limited compared to where it was. And then you throw in what Sabryna was talking about, social media. We feel like we're connecting, but we're really not. And so we've replaced the meaningful connection with the superficial connection. And so that cornerstone or that stability is not there through the difficult times.
Mm. Yeah. And I would say our uncertainty, or what I see maybe in clients sometimes, is uncertainty drives decreased confidence in the ability to move forward with things because of said uncertainty in multiple areas of life.
Sure.
And I find some are harder to navigate with individuals and clients than others. So, I would say that when it feels like, or when the client is talking about how they've tried everything, or they're just out there wit's end, like there's loss of hope and like there's disconnect with maybe community, it feels exponentially more challenging than maybe some of the other areas where you can like almost brainstorm like what's within your control, right? Like Sabryna, I don't know about you, but I do feel like some of these uncertain pieces, there is less of that hope exploration because it just feels so drab for them. And you don't want to pull them out of that, but you also want to be able to help them navigate it. And I find that can be challenged with certain topics.
I mean, I actually think people, because we have access to so much information, I think people are misguided in thinking that things need to be more certain, if that makes sense.
That's good.
Because they have so much information. And so they think that they should know more because they have all this information. But the bottom line is like, I mean, uncertainty is is like it's completely normal. Like, I mean, we know this, right? Like life is uncertain, but I think people, because we have access to such technology, they're like, we should know more. We should be able to do more. And it's like, but that's really just a little bit of a myth, right?
Yeah. Or sense of shame almost. Like we should know like what's next, or we should have more certainty or stability. And that uncertainty feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah, before we were comparing to our peers. Yeah, before we were comparing to our peers who are also as imperfect as we are.
Exactly.
And now we're comparing to perfection because the information is available of what is the optimal in every single area of life. And so that gap, that's a great point.
Yeah. So it's really funny, because I told you there's all these topics that, make people feel uncertain, or they are thinking and I'm uncertain about this and I'm uncertain about that. But actually what I have found is that what works with a lot of people is to help them realize that it's normal to feel discomfort from feeling uncertain. Like that's completely normal. And actually helping them to get more used to that. Like that's actually a skill. You know how we're always talking about coaching skills? Well, it's like helping people build skills. It's a skill to be more comfortable with uncertainty. That's really the thing. But I try to tell them too, that whole thing about how we're like negative biased as humans.
Naturally.
Do we know that?
We know that, like for sure. That's protective.
Yes.
We have to be.
Right.
We wouldn't survive. We might in today's world. We wouldn't have survived 1,000 years ago if we didn't have that. We'd be.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
So our brains are always trying to, I tell people, I'm like, well, our brains are always trying to go, what's going to happen next? Is a saber-toothed tiger going to come?
100%.
Am I safe? And so we're kind of working against the fact that our brains are negatively biased and thinking, oh my gosh, the worst is going to happen. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Right. And that's the uncertainty. Like that's the feeling of uncertainty. It's normal. It's happening to us. So we have to just recognize.
But as you're talking to your clients, that those are coming up and the conversation changes the response. That's the coaching. I mean, that's the beauty of coaching.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we get to coach people about this, because otherwise they get spooled up in their feeling, in the feelings that come from uncertainty, because the feelings that come from uncertainty are fear, anxiety, right. Stress. Oh my gosh. And guess what? It's like kind of self-induced, right? If we don't acknowledge that uncertainty is fairly normal. Like we can't foretell the future, by the way.
Right.
I mean, unless something else has changed that I don't know about.
Coaches are not fortune tellers. However, I would say we maybe like open up the opportunity to sit in the process, which can feel uncomfortable. So like full acknowledgement that doesn't feel normal, given what we've already talked about, right? Of like, the idea that we should have things figured out or we should know what's next. And people are, myself included, sometimes we're so focused on the outcome, right? That we're not sitting in this process. We're focused on the outcome of like, what is going to happen, in the world with AI? What's going to happen in the current political climate? What's going to happen in 20 years with climate change? And then all of a sudden you're just like spurring out into a fury of these what ifs. You're out of your present moment. You're not focused on the process. You're feeling disconnected with the day-to-day. And that feels exponentially harder. So I think it's this opportunity to sit in the process and really be okay and understand that there's a common humanity around this uncomfortable uncertainty.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a big one. I think people just need to, when I coach people about it, it is just acknowledging, oh my gosh, yes, this is uncertain. The last time I thought about, we can't foretell the future. So let's sit here for a moment and think about really what can we do? It's so interesting going back to, with AI, there are problems that we can solve information that we can get. And then there are uncertainties. And so like a problem might be, oh my gosh, I need to update my resume, right? For somebody that's maybe in a career transition. Okay, so they can actually go update the resume. But then if the thought is AI going to make my job obsolete? That's like not something you can solve. Like you can update your resume, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I think it's sometimes when I talk to people, I'm like, is this something that we can actually theoretically solve? Or is just this something we just need to think about for a moment and choose how we're going to respond and choose? I don't know.
And Sabryna, I think you've nailed that of your second half of that sentence was we need to converse about it. We need with a person to be heard, to be seen, and then determine the next step. That's what's missing. Folks, when we get fearful, the deer in the headlights, we fall into passivity. And as we're talking to a coach, and by the way, just a side note, all three of us have a coach also. So we're not coming at it just from we like to coach people. We have had a coach that we work with. We do that within our company for, I don't know, a decade or more, 12 years. So we're coming at it from both sides. And I just had my coaching session with my coach 2 weeks ago, and it was just so helpful. I know the right answer, but that's not coaching. So we're moving from the fear-based passivity into where is my sphere of influence? What do I have some control over? It's super interesting. I think almost everyone's heard of Dante's Inferno, a book that no one's read, but everyone knows about because it's so hard to get through. But his deepest level of hell that he describes in Dante's Inferno is not a burning furnace. It's an iced over lake, and it represents lack of motion, lack of action. That is the deepest hell, when you are feeling so deer in the headlights that you don't even know what to do. You're stuck in the ice, you're frozen in time, and you can't move forward. And the coach brings a blowtorch to that lake and says, oh, yes, there is.
I love that.
I mean, it's so easy for a person to just get wrapped up in their own head, right?
Yes. Amen. Me too.
Right. We're just full of gremlins up there. Right. So yes, it helps to share with the coach, process with the coach.
We talked a little bit about
this.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about AI, and I do want to come back to that because I do think from both those who are coaches who are listening to this, and then also clients, to have this kind of conversation around AI as a source of client and coach uncertainty in the industry. And there's a few different ways we can go with this, but I would say, we've talked about a few of the stressors like job security or like health information or misinformation overload, or like this pressure to have it figured out because we've got access to information now that we maybe didn't have previously, or the pace of technological advancement. I know I've heard some clients are like, this is just moving so rapidly. Like, I don't even know, like I can't even keep up with the way that technology is advancing. And that feels uncertain or overwhelming based on, the individual. So I think a conversation around how we coach someone through that kind of fear that's genuinely hard to predict. Like, no one's got a crystal ball about anything, right? Especially not AI and exactly where it's going or what's happening or how fast it's going to make impacts in different areas, if so, right? So I think maybe how will AI affect my career, or how does AI work alongside, clients when I'm coaching them, or vice versa? So I know we've had a few other podcast episodes on this, but I think sitting with this for a few minutes would be helpful for our listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've seen that AI is, I love using it for brainstorming. I mean, love it, right? It's just another brain out there that's like objective. And, we can do that with a coach too. And I'll share why it's different. I think AI is really good for like getting information. I think AI can be helpful for tracking, But like, there are so many times when I'm using AI, I'm like, what the heck? What haven't I told you this before? For some reason, AI is not that great at like really actually connecting the dots that matter to me. And I think it's because it's not, I just really feel like it is because it's not present as a human. Like it doesn't actually recognize what is important to me.
Yeah.
Like a coach would, like a person would. Right. And I think part of it is because I don't share with AI part of it, I don't share with AI what I would share with the person. Because I'm like, what the heck? Why would I tell AI that? Right.
Yeah. And
it doesn't have feelings.
Yeah. And I mean, it can be likable, right? Versus challenging you on thought processes or thinking. And I think you did bring up a good point around importance of, there's a lot that you have to do to set chat or AI up for success to be like a thought thinker with you. And I mean, with coaching, we bring out different tools and strategies, I would say, to evoke exploration and deeper thoughts and challenging those thoughts forward, or understanding nuance in discrepancies, right? And maybe action steps or forward thinking versus information gathering.
As a coach, I hear people. I hear the pause. I see the pause. They feel seen.
Yeah.
But you see when people are thinking, you see an expression. You can almost hear an emotion as a coach. And that's when those are the dots that I'm connecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
The tone changes. If you're on phone coaching versus video coaching, you're seeing someone.
Well, even the seconds of pause. An experienced coach spends more time listening, does that level 3 listening. And so is noticing in the moment what the coach is doing, but also noticing like maybe connecting something that the client said 7 minutes ago.
Yes. I like how you say connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The relevant dots, I guess, I think is what we do as coaches. And, I'm just kind of cracking up. I'm like, the last time I checked, like information, I don't know, really doesn't change people as much as relationships change people.
Right. Knowledge does not equal behavior change. I mean, that's in the theories of behavior change. Knowledge does not equal behavior change. So we can research all day.
Otherwise, we'd all be perfect humans.
We should be, right? That's the thing. But it's different when you have that relation with a human and a lived experience. While you're not, inferring your experience or opinion into the coaching conversation, you do have that human connection of, when someone is navigating a challenging time. We can all say we've also been at in our head, a challenging time, and have some kind of relatability, right? Without inferring our own opinion or judgment in that, but just that human understanding that we're not alone in this process that I don't think can be replaced. And I think you brought up a good point earlier of like, there's some things that we just feel more comfortable sharing with people, like with humans. And how we feel about big decisions in our life that we might not maybe necessarily share on a chat platform or anywhere else. And we want that human feedback or human connectedness or relatability or just someone to sit there with us. That's the thing too, is like, if you're in chat, it will always give a response. Coaches allow for that pause. So we don't necessarily always give a response, right? So we wait. And then allows the client to reflect. So I think that there's that power there too that AI can't do. So
I never thought about that, Leigh, but now that is the most annoying thing when you're interacting with something like ChatGPT, and then it says something else, and then it says something else. And I'm like, stop it.
let me think, right? It's like we allow people to think. You're thinking. You're like, you are an active participant in the thought process too, in that way.
Exactly. And I think,
Yeah.
okay, so when you say the thought process, see, that is another thing that is a little frustrating with AI is there is no time to think. You ask it a question and it goes blah, 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 in 1.2 seconds. And it gives you something. And then, I mean, you want to sit there and think, and you want to just sit there and really think. Like, I would rather know what you think, Leigh, about something versus AI, because what you matter, I guess, if that makes sense. You matter. How you think about it matters to me. How you feel about it matters.
Yeah. That relatability of, outside of a coaching session too, like in the coaching industry, when we're wanting feedback or thoughts on programmatic adjustments or changes, the best people to connect with are people who are also within our industry, right? Like, Sabryna, you brought it up. Like, we want to hear from, I want to hear from you, Sabryna, or I want to hear from Brad, because they're giving that tough love feedback of like, yes, I like this idea. And what about this idea? Because of their lived experience in the same or similar industry. Yeah. Or having that feedback that isn't maybe always positive. So I think there's that too. Like, that's the thing too. Like, some real talk feedback. I think another, we talk a little bit about, I think, the difference, right, between coaching, like human connectedness and coaching and AI. And that's top of mind for a lot of people right now. I think the other thing that's interesting that's come up is when people do use AI, this exploration of morals and ethics and like that I've seen come up with clients, where if they are using it as a brainstorming person, or like, I want, tell me a meal plan, or like, tell me how to lay out my day. And it gives them a bunch of information. I do feel in those conversations, some clients have said there's a certain level of discomfort with like copping out with using that when they feel like they should be able to do it themselves. So there's that flip thing of like, yes, there's all this information out there. And yet, if they do engage with that, they almost feel like they're not putting in the actual work, like they're copping out with it, which is interesting.
The data backs their feelings up. It's very clear that if we're not doing the thought process first and the self-exploration and planning and figuring out, and then using it as do I have the right meal plan based on what I came up, then literally a portion of our brain is starting to shut down. So that feeling that you're describing, Leigh, that's not just a feeling, that is reality. And so the difference between just getting the answer and talking that through with a coach and figuring that out, and where do I want to go with that, and here's what I was thinking, and now, it's totally different.
That's experiential. Like, we need that experience of processing. Yeah. Because if we get rid of that experience of processing with our own thoughts and our own feelings, then we're just going to start to lose it.
It's a muscle. Yeah. It's a muscle.
Yeah. And we know we don't just dive into goals and action steps and resources with clients. Ever. We dive into values, assessing importance of making a change in said area, experimental and growth mindset around what does happen if you make this change. What will happen if you don't make the change? For any of the plan, we
explore, is it something that the client really believes is important, or was it something they heard? So we just do that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
We clarify. Oh my gosh! Like, we help our clients know themselves, which is then how they can figure out what is the best way to move forward for them.
Yes, deciphering.
Right. So it's yes. Yeah. This is good. Although, did we get away from our original topic?
No, I don't think so. I mean, AI is it's a whole beast of different, we could talk about it all day. I think we've had, 2 podcast episodes on it now. So folks, if you want a more dedicated, like an hour long with Sarah Perotti, am I pronouncing her last name right?
Yes.
She and Sabryna did a wonderful podcast on AI. But yeah, I think we've covered some uncertainty around it, thoughts, feelings around it, how it's different, working with, chat or AI platform versus working with a coach, or connecting with a human when you're thinking about thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions, next steps in your journey, whether that's health, business related. And I think the one piece we haven't talked about as much is the coach's role in we talked a little bit about how we are different, right? Human versus AI. And I think just maybe a little bit more on the coach's role when the path forward isn't clear. So yes, there's a level of uncertainty with AI. There's also a level of uncertainty with, are we welcomed in the healthcare system? Are we going to be replaced by technology? Are we going to work alongside technology? How do we compete against online information or other quote unquote coaches, those kinds of things. So maybe a conversation around navigating when coaches are feeling uncertain, a little topic there.
When coaches are feeling uncertain, because I was actually thinking about just going back generally when people are feeling uncertain, just in general, and so that's kind of where my brain went. And I was thinking when something is uncertain, well, I think, and Brad, you kind of mentioned something about locus of control, just, I don't know, 10 minutes ago. But I was thinking when we're coaching a person, we know that there are things that are kind of out of a client's control, right? So if we think about it as circles, out of a person's control can be things like, I don't know, politics, other people's decisions. There are all these things that aren't really in their control. And I think what we do as a coach is and this is what we're so good at, is focusing on what a person really can influence. And what can they influence? They can influence their own actions. They can
so much more than they realize. I think that's the point.
So
right.
Yes, they can they can influence, they can control their attention. They can control what they learn. They can control what they communicate within their relationship. They can control what they choose to do every day. And I just feel when we are living in a world of uncertainty, we don't ignore the things that we can't control, but we do try to put more energy, right? Instead of burning out our energy on all the things that we can't control, we put energy into the things that we can influence. And so we really think about that. And I think that's what's helpful when even talking to a coach, even when I talk to my coach, because I don't know, I'm really good at burning energy on a bunch of things I can't control sometimes. Right?
Well, aren't we all?
and I think I'm actually working on an article right now about this concept of let's take the words discipline and motivation. I want everybody who's listening to us to think, do you see those as outside resources that someone hands you, like height? Or is it a reflection of the actions and choices you're taking on a daily basis? Because I have a lot of conversations with people that simply say, oh, I don't have enough discipline, or I don't have enough motivation. And they're saying it like it's this thing that someone's going to knock on their door and say, here's your package of motivation. Here's your package of discipline. Oprah brought it for you. Or do you see discipline and motivation as simply a reflection of the way you're living your life, the systems you're setting up? Because if you know the research, it's the second. And if you see it as you talk to your coach, if you can see what are my options, not, oh, I can't do that because I don't have enough of it. Well, okay. So how do we change that? What does that look like? How do we tap into the FMT bank or whatever process you're using? But I'm amazed. I hear that. Once I realized it in a couple of people, I'm seeing it everywhere. I don't have enough discipline. I don't have enough. Well, okay. It's not height. It's a reflection of the actions we're taking. So if we don't have enough, we work backwards and say, okay.
Is what you're saying.
Right. Yes. What is my step I need to take forward?
Right. Yeah. It's not like the store is closed. The discipline and motivation store is closed.
It's not up to Oprah, is the point. It starts here.
I'm hearing too, like, like we can use on, like, Sabryna, you mentioned a few times. I'm glad you brought us back to this, because I do think we should talk about this a little more around the sense of, like, what can we control? Because when when things feel uncertain, we just spiral out and think we have no control. Our confidence goes down, like we talked about earlier, and then we feel stuck. And I think, when we can explore the things we can control, I would almost say, like, uncertainty is a catalyst to open up growth and opportunity for us if we can think about it differently. And then we do put in, like, practices or routines, like Brad was mentioning. Like, we do take some more self-accountability to put things in, because we're like, okay, we can control these things, or, like, what's happening that is then causing me to feel fatigued or more overwhelmed about said uncertainty in the world. It goes back to, like, our foundational principles too, of, like, we can probably control how much water we're drinking or how much sleep we're getting, or, like, to a certain extent, right? There's always, outliers to all these things. But, if we're noticing, okay, if we're scrolling on our phone for 30 minutes before bed instead of, like, going to bed, like, that's something we can probably control. Like, just, and I think sometimes, I don't know, Sabryna, about you, but when we do have those coaching sessions where it starts with, like, the world sucks, I'm not losing weight, I'm angry at my job, like, it's just like, it's that negative self-defeating. And then by the end, we're kind of talking about, okay, that all of that feels really overwhelming and unnerving and frustrating. Yeah. What is within your influence right now that maybe you've leaned on in the past that will, give you X amount of energy or make you feel better, or what do you feel is doable right now? And then it opens up this opportunity and this hope. And then it drives these behaviors, which then in turn is that ripple effect that they start to feel better, et cetera.
Well, and here's what a coach can do is a coach can go through a process with the client, right? And go through just a topic of uncertainty and I'll coach the client to have a little bit of success of, like, oh yeah, I can do this. And so that's what we do. We start with this little tiny thing. Look, you can do this.
+1.
Like, you can take a breath every time you are feeling that feeling. And then maybe just think about what's the next thing you actually want to think about versus what you have been thinking about. And it's like a coach can start to feed the positive spiral, but knows, like, was with the client right there, as opposed to, like, when you go onto Google and it just blurts out all this information. You talk to ChatGPT and blurts out all this. Your coach takes you on the little steps, right? And walks with you. And that's what's so cool. Again, this is why I'd rather talk to you, Leigh, than to ChatGPT.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We've talked a little bit about this whole deciphering thing. We get all this information and resources, and we're helping kind of bridge that clarity. What information and resources do they feel connected to? What stands out to them? What are their thoughts on it? All of those types of things. And sometimes some of the resources don't feel doable right now. So it's like all the information that's been spit out, or that they're seeing online, or that they've seen on Instagram. You'll hear them say, like, well, that's all nice and well, but I don't have 8 hours in the day to spend on, my slow morning or my, 5-course lunch. And it's really about bringing people back to a sense of, like, their own reality and what's going to work for them and what's important to them about those things. Right. So, yeah. And just being real with them. Like, yeah, I mean, it'd be great to be able to have a slow morning and a great meal every day and all these things. And how could that look right now? Right. Like, what's going on with your life right now, and what's most important to you right now to focus on versus what you feel like you should. It goes back to, like, the comparison, resources and comparison versus our own thoughts, behaviors, feelings, and emotions around our actions. Yeah.
And the whole, that word, every time you say the word should, okay, this is what coaches do not say. We do not use that word.
We do not. We haven't done the research to see if chat uses should, but I think it might. I'm just throwing that out there. So what else, Sabryna, is coming up for you I know we've talked about a lot of different things so far, uncertainty and maybe some, we've talked a little bit about tools and techniques that we use in coaching conversations around how to pull people, through like feelings and feeling stuck. Like we talk about what's within your control, what's within your influence, like some of those questions, like, what does your life look like right now? What have you learned about those resources? So a lot of like exploratory things. I'm curious what other skills you maybe pull on when clients are maybe feeling stuck that would be helpful for a coach to maybe think through, or when a client's feeling like they're just circling the drain. Like, I'm talking about like the client where it's like, yeah, I've tried all these things and here I am and I'm frustrated about it. I'm feeling defeated and I'm also engaging in all of this content, right? So I think there's some other skills we could talk through aside from maybe this exploration that might be helpful as well for coaches.
Well, I mean, I think this is another thing that, what human coaches really do really well versus AI is like, I think of this thing from Dr. Orlowski. He has the acronym FAVE, and it's always like, first, acknowledge what you're hearing from the client, validate it, and empathize. So I always think, yes, as a coach, don't be ChatGPT and spit out all the answers. Don't do that. That is not good. Right. So, acknowledge what the client is saying and let them know that it's okay to feel those emotions, but then also start to take those steps of where they, like where you create the space so that they can start to see like, okay, you are feeling this, just name it, create that space. And now like what is really true? Like, and what do you really need? Those are kind of the things that I kind of focus on. Like all the swirling thoughts, are those true? But then also I'm listening for like, what does this client really need? That's what I kind of put responsibility for myself on a coach. And that's like nonviolent communication. That's like going back to that.
I've got a question for you too, for some of the coaches that may have popped onto this thinking, hey, I know how to help my clients through this uncertainty. I, as a coach, am feeling uncertain. And I'm hearing both of you or all three of you talking about how we're different from AI. But in my coaching business, I'm feeling really uncertain. Do either of you have some lifeline or some encouragement or some ways that I can take that ownership that you're talking about, that you talk your other clients through, for me as a coach? Do either or both of you have some thoughts along those lines?
That's a good question, Brad. And I would say,
I'll get you started.
First,
don't be passive. Like that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's challenging. And so what steps am I taking? And it may end up being the wrong step, but don't sit back on your couch going, oh, God, the world's falling apart. It may, we don't know, but it doesn't help to sit on the couch. So that I got it rolling. Now you two take it from there with specifics.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, it goes back to something Leigh said, when it was like, oh, it's so soothing when we can talk with others that are sharing the same experiences. And so I think of some of the times I have felt the best as a coach. And it's going to sound cheesy because I'm not trying to advertise our retreat, but like literally we talked about community, and it is like tapping into the community that you are wanting. Mm. So it's not doing it alone, and it's not being passive, right, Brad? And we don't want to be passive. We don't want to do this alone. So for me, what I would say if a coach is feeling that way, I would say find a coaching community that is
That's good.
experiencing similar things that you're feeling, and sit there.
That's super
and
good.
talk through it. I mean, because that is, oh my gosh, it is so validating when you put yourself in the community that supports you, right?
And they get you.
We can influence that. We can choose that. So that would be my answer.
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
I like that because, we know being in community, and aside from the retreat, there are other ways that coaches can connect. There are tons of different resources with Facebook groups and, Coach Connects virtually, those kinds of things. Although we'd love for you to come to the retreat. I think also when it comes to uncertainty, whether it's AI, healthcare, reimbursement, my recommendation would be to educate yourself on what exactly is going on in the industry. Instead of it's easy when things feel bleak to just kind of check out and be like, well, this sucks. The industry's not going in the direction that I want it to, my gosh. But it's another to actually engage in some of the webinars that are out there, or engage in some of the research that's going on, or, taking some time to read through some of those reimbursement emails that we get, because then you kind of, I would say when I've actively engaged with what's going on in the industry, although it can be frustrating at times to read some of the things that are going on, or things taking longer than we want them to, it gives us a better understanding of what is actually going on versus making an idea up in our mind about what's next for us in our job, right, in our industry. So I think building community, being in community with other coaches, and also actively engaging in the resources that are out there to understand more of what exactly is AI and what's going on in this industry. What exactly is the billing and coding reimbursement process? Is there something that I can read or a webinar that can explain this to me so I have maybe a little less or more awareness and less open frustration around it, right? I think when we engage and we're more self-aware, then we feel a little more in control of what we could do next because we have that increased sense of awareness. So I'd say that education and community.
Good.
I think it's so interesting as you were talking, because I was thinking about a person trying to close the gap from where they are now to where they want to be, how they want to feel. And you were saying, just educate yourself. And what came to mind for me was make sure you close the gap with valid things.
Yes.
Excellent, valuable
Sabryna.
and valid resources. So we can, this is where I was going with this. You can close the gap with a lot of garbage. You can close a gap with a lot of toxicity. And so all I'm saying is, we want to close that gap, but we want to do it, like you say, with education, resources that are valuable,
right?
Community that is valuable,
right?
Not toxic. So that's maybe what I would say, in addition to, supporting what you just said, inform, but do it in a manner that is in a thriving manner versus that fearful, surviving, if that makes sense. Right.
Yes. I'm not saying doom scroll on, a community Facebook group where it's everything's to shambles right now. I'm more so thinking what current valid evidence is out there in those things that are making us feel a little uncomfortable. It's AI. There's more reputable training on how is AI integrating into healthcare? I think, and with the coding and reimbursement, yes, there's tons of negative things out there around that. And I think also there are those updates, which can give us a better picture of what exactly is going on versus a thread of 100 comments saying, no one's doing enough, this stinks, et cetera, et cetera. Even if we're not, it's not our kind of wheelhouse, it gives us a little sense of understanding from a credible source of like, okay, here's my reality around my frustration, and here's what I'm spiraling out about the industry, and it's bleak and terrible, and we're not going anywhere, right? Like it gives us a little more hope, I would say, as well. So I like that you added that too.
Little phrase might help folks. I just pulled it up. I'd written it down the other day. I was pondering this on a run. Misinformation isn't simply misunderstanding. It's missed opportunity. When we're doom scrolling, when we get into a bubble and we're just hearing all this misinformation, it's not just that that's sending us in the wrong direction. It's blocking our vision from the things that we actually can do, that the evidence or the reliable resources are putting out there that we're missing because we're looking over here to the left. So I think, remember, there's always an opportunity. There's always an opportunity. And when we tap into that doom scrolling and the misinformation, then we miss that opportunity.
100%. And I would say that too, as board certified health and wellness coaches, it's our responsibility to be up to date with health and wellness education and resources that are credible. So I think that like this isn't an exception to that with AI and healthcare and some other things, whatever else. I know we've kind of honed in on those two pieces that seem top of mind, but when it comes to anything we're feeling uncertain about, we do have that responsibility to be in
we
the
have
know.
A professional code of conduct that we definitely are responsible to uphold. I don't know what's going on with the AI stuff because I don't know what that ethical code of conduct is going on there, but I know our coaching professional code of conduct.
So Sabryna, as we wrap up, what else do you feel like we have not maybe covered in the area of uncertain times, what we can and can't control, our role and responsibility as a coach?
Well, okay, I'm going to put this out there and you're just going to laugh because I was like, ew, what do I want to say at the end day? And of course I had this like 4-step thing, but I was laughing because they all begin with P's. And, you and I have had a conversation about P's and you're like, Sabryna, can't you pick a different letter? Why has it got to be P? But yeah, it had to be P. So I came up with 4 P's to help people think about what to do with uncertainty. So I'm going to offer you that. So it was pause. So pause. So when we're feeling uncertain and we're feeling all those negative emotions that can come from the feeling of uncertainty, just pause and just notice and acknowledge your emotions and slow down, create that space from the emotions so that you can start to tap into your thinking brain, which is perspective. Now think about your perspective. What is your perspective? What might you be telling yourself? Have you spooled up what's true, versus what are assumptions you made? And then start to think about possibilities. And you can do, like, if we're coaches, we can do this with our client. Like, what are the possibilities? What are the things that I could influence? What can I change? Or where maybe can I get support? And then the last P is proceed. Like, that's our action. Like, let's take action. Back to Brad. Kind of like, okay, don't just sit there. But like, what can we do now that we've thought about what is in our control? So that's what we can do in times of uncertainty, either as a person or as a coach. Pause, perspectives, possibilities, and proceed. Yes, Leigh, sorry that they're all P's.
Sabryna, I think that's really good. And you reminded me of some data that backs that up. And folks, we didn't want to make this all about AI, but we're getting so many questions about this. We also didn't want to continually push it to the side. So we kind of let that bubble up to the top. But if you look at the data on creativity, problem solving, realizing opportunities, it is really clear when you narrow your view. So that would be looking at your phone, looking at your computer screen, staring down at the ground. That eliminates the possibilities. Your brain does not have an opportunity to expand, to create, to understand what might be out there. The look at the horizon, the looking out at the distance, that's what creates the possibility. So if you're struggling with something, your brain is not, you might get some information, but your brain is not going to tap that next level, those new opportunities, that unseen things hiding that in plain view when you're looking down or at a screen or at a phone. It comes from looking at the horizon, looking outside, looking broadly. And that's what happens. I'd never thought about this before. That's what happens. So if Leigh's coaching me, I'm not looking at my computer. I'm looking out the window. I'm looking at the horizon. I'm taking all this in as she's helping me process. If I'm doing that with a phone AI tool or a computer screen AI tool, it's narrowing my focus. It's limiting that. And so, yes, it's great information. It's miraculous information. It's incredible. It's a great tool. Of course, use it. But use it where it's valuable.
Use it with intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear coaching helps with expansiveness of our knowledge and our opportunities. And I love the 4 P's.
And our experiences.
There's no lapse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate both of your time today. So you got to hear a little bit from myself, Sabryna, and Brad Cooper about areas of uncertainty and AI and human nuance and coaching and community and connection. And if you didn't go the whole way to the end, you should, for the 4 Ps with Sabryna Liddle. And there's 2 ways in which you could connect with us further. Either if you're looking for a coach, I know we talked about coaches specifically and how to help with skill development. And also if you're a client who is looking for that human connectedness and relationship towards making change in your life, then we would encourage you to look into Catalyst One, which is our coaching program for individualized coaching with our Rockstar team of health, wellness, and performance coaches. And you can get more information from that at catalystcoaching360.com-1 and if you're looking for connectedness and community in the coaching environment, join us at the 8th Annual Coaching Retreat and Symposium in Estes Park this fall. And thank you for being here.